We've got a live stream going, and get this straight now. Okay, my name's Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And it's a little early for me today. It's the 19th of April. It's a Sunday, first day of the week here in Israel. This is like Monday in Europe or America, and it's 7:19 in the morning. Well, we have a lot of events. The Iranian thing is lighting up quite a bit. Iran, using drones and go-fast boats, fired on a container ship and damaged it. I believe it was on fire, and fired at two India oil tankers. One was a mega tanker, and with the go-fast boats, I mean, they were shooting at him. It's not a joke. And they had to turn around. And Iran is telling all the ships that they're in control. And if you don't get our permission to go through and you don't pay the toll, you ain't going. So basically, Trump's blockade becomes superficial unless he just keeps people from getting anywhere near the Straits of Hormuz entirely. And he could still stop Iranian ships from leaving the Persian Gulf. He can do that. Cuts their money off. The peace talks in Pakistan on Monday, according to Pakistan, which should know they're holding them, they're canceled. Troops are pouring into the Middle East, equipment, everything. And what we're going to cover today is we're going to look at Trump's ulterior motives, what he's going to do. We're going to talk about ground invasion, and we're going to talk about how Iran's going to be destroyed and fulfill prophecy. So we got a real interesting show today, and it's going to go down. And the people that don't believe in God and the Bible are giving you some explanations that aren't that bad, but a lot of them come up with explanations where Iran wins. Iran has already gotten tremendous devastation, 20-year rebuild probably. Probably you're never going to see it. It's a wrecked place. It doesn't need much to collapse. Really, all it needs is the water desalination plants to go. And, we'll get into it, not much. Have they started firing at the other Gulf countries? Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iraq? Not yet. I have a feeling they don't want to start shooting missiles at the countries right now. One thing is that would imply greatly that there is no ceasefire, and then Israel would probably start moving in on Lebanon again. Lebanon has oil, but a pittance, I think, just a tiny bit, nothing relevant. So we're going to get into this whole discussion about oil big time and what Trump's motives are and how he's trying to do an MAGA in the Middle East and other places, okay? We're going to incorporate what he's doing with Greenland, Canada, Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela. And I'm going to Ukraine attacking Russia. I'll put the picture together. And remember, this is the snare he's in. This is not what Trump wants to happen, isn't necessarily going to be what is going to happen. And remember that America normally does pretty good in an air war. We haven't had any real naval wars in many decades. Um, the last big naval war we had, seriously, was in World War II. And it started out, we did very badly the first year and a half to 2 years. And then we did very, very well. So the German U-boats were clobbering merchant marine vessels bringing aid to Europe, specifically, the UK, Great Britain, before we entered the war, like 40, 41. And Japan had built up a massive fleet, and we suffered bad losses at Pearl Harbor, and we were weak and losing naval battles, and we were really not doing too good. And then they generated a lot of new naval ships. They generated a lot of what were called tin cans, destroyers made with 1/4-inch steel that were loaded with guns, loaded. They were able to shoot torpedoes and depth charges and anti-aircraft, everything. But if they got hit, it would be pretty much devastating on them. There was no armor. And guys that were on those boats were saying, oh, they're never going to let their kids go in the military after this. They were very disgruntled with America for putting them on those boats. But America did that because they needed to churn out a massive amount of boats quick. So they made the boat offensive in that the only way they were going to survive encounters with other ships was basically to kill the other ship before it could hurt them. It was not it worked, but it cost a lot of American ships and lives. Okay, so America doesn't, we don't know. I mean, when was the last time we took our Navy and threw it up against another Navy? Well, you didn't really have it in the Iraq War. You didn't have it in the Vietnam War. When did you have it? Well, you didn't really have it. So we don't know how they'll do. I have a feeling we'll soon find out, but we don't know. So we're going to get into this, and remember, we're going to be basically following the money trail, because that's what Trump is riding on, the money trail. And we'll be very interesting on this one. Okay, so and obviously you should understand that war is going to flare up rather quickly. Trump is insinuating he may not extend the ceasefire, which I was told expires on Tuesday, and Trump was talking in terms of Wednesday. So I guess in his mind, he's just saying, well, Tuesday's a write-off, it's a ceasefire, and then Wednesday we'll figure it out. Now, Wednesday could mean, 1 minute after midnight, So we got to see what he's cooking up here. Okay. Cooking up here. Let me jump into the live stream. Cooking up here. Let me jump into and see if I got anything here yet to deal with. Thank you to the moderators. I'm on an early start today. I got up early, and I also need to talk to you about drought, how serious that is too. And that's a prophecy in Jeremiah 50:51. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about the drought, remember 51% of America now is under drought of some degree. And what goes hand in hand with drought? I will kindle fires in and about your cities. That's what goes hand in hand with drought, doesn't it? Fires? Yeah, when you got drought, you got fires easily. Okay, I'm going to put a post up in the chat, and it's going to take seconds, not minutes. me check the typos. We're good. Let me pin this. Pin. Come on. Don't you want to pin? There you go. Okay. Good. That all worked out. And people coming in. And let me close this off. And I'm going to go do some praise. Being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise. And of course, if anyone wants to join in, they'll just join in. I mean, that's okay. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 Take a look at this thing here for a minute. Yeah. Okay. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Let's get into this thing, okay? What Israel is being used for by America is giving them an assist in taking out Iran. Iran is a threat to America. Goes back to BRICS. Iran and Russia were the predominant ones in BRICS that were insisting on selling the oil off the US dollar, which would create a drop in demand for the US dollar. They also got Saudi Arabia and UAE in BRICS. So the demand for the dollar would go whoop, and that means the value of the dollar would go whoop, and that means America goes into heavy inflation and recession, even into mild depression, okay? And Trump couldn't have that. That's not exactly consistent with MAGA. I prefer MIGA, which is consistent with Bible prophecy, make Israel great again. Well, I mean, God is going to do that, but and Israel under him, reporting to him, answering to him, is going to be the answer to this, the head of the nations. But moving along, Trump, of course, doesn't believe that. Trump has the audacity to come out and say he's going to be doing Bible studies every day for 1 week. If you think this Trump, is a Christian, I mean, I can't help you. Okay. So what happens with Russia? Well, they prop Ukraine up in a war against Russia. And Ukraine is constantly, every time you turn around, Ukraine is not blowing up an airfield, not blowing up a reservoir or a dam, or blowing up a train station or a port or a pier. They're blowing up an oil refinery. Trump doesn't want Russia selling oil off the US dollar. If Russia's off the market, or half their oil is off the market, that means less oil is going to be purchased for currencies other than the US dollar. Essentially going back, I guess, into the 70s, maybe earlier. Probably earlier. The Americans went to the Gulf oil producing countries, which were Iran under the Shah guy, not under this lunatic dictatorship, and Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, basically. Um, and Syria had some oil involved in this, and of course Iraq. I left that out in Iraq. Jordan never really had a lot of oil. Jordan pumps oil, and they just kind of use it for themselves. They don't export. Not enough going on in Jordan for a high relevancy there. Okay, so it helps their economy because they don't have to import oil, So, basically the scenario is the United States is the top dog of the Middle East.
Hey, it's sprinkling. I'm going to bring Mommy in.
Oh, okay. We're the king of the Middle East, and we're going to protect you. And all you got to do is make sure all your oil gets sold on the U.S. dollar, and we're there for you. Okay? And they were, back when this was going on, look, when they first started getting oil, I'll tell you what they were doing. The oil, the emirs, the shahs, the whatever you want to call them, the kings, the rulers, the dictators of these countries would buy a railroad engine and one or two railroad cars, okay? And they would go and lay, I don't know, a mile of track, maybe at most, and they spend millions getting this thing floated over there on steamships, then they drive up and down on a piece of track going nowhere on their railroad. Like a kid with a sandbox toy. Seriously. They would have a lake dug. And when I say a lake, I mean maybe we're talking 300, 400, 500 yards. And they would buy yachts, and they'd have the yacht dropped into this little hole in the ground they dug and filled with water. And they would float around on the yacht in the desert. And maybe they took the train and they drove it a few hundred yards to the yacht, and then they walked off and got on the yacht. Did they have Rolls Royces and Mercedes Benzes and all? Yeah, oh yeah, all of that. Did they have big diamonds and rubies? Oh yeah. Were they building palaces? Yeah. Were they importing all kinds of crazy food? Oh yeah. Everything. They were doing the whole 9 yards, But I just wanted to show you what kind of dumbbells they were, okay? And their children are no different. They say they sent their children to Oxford and Cambridge and Harvard. And did they? Yeah. How do they get their kids in? Well, they go over there and build a wing or a library or a little medical clinic or something for a few $1,000,000. And then the schools let them in. Oh, and they also make diplomatic contacts through the governments of the country. Now, the UK has had a history until recent days of being very close to these oil-producing countries. They got along with them rather well. So did Switzerland. And the United States used to get by with them. They did okay. And they were highly controllable. And then they wanted to develop weapons, and the America didn't want that. No, you don't need weapons. We're here for you. Anybody lifts a hand to you, you call the White House, and we'll be right over there. Okay? You don't have anything to worry about. And that's how it went. And they kept wanting to arm more and more, but they never got there. America never really gave them the good stuff. Okay? Their armament was not just to suppress the Civil War. No, they had better than that. In the last 25, 30 years, they got better than that. But it used to be they didn't have much better than that. So if you arm these people up like Iran got armed up, you're going to get rebellion from them. They're going to talk back. Okay, that was the history of it. Now, in recent months, the UAE and Saudi Arabia had been selling oil off the dollar. In BRICS. There was no trading oil in BRICS on the dollar. They're members of BRICS. Okay. So Saudi Arabia, the kid, the pathetic kid from the father, who's, I think, still alive, but sick, as I'll look it up, the kid grew up with, a diamond encrusted platinum spoon in his mouth, right? These are not competent leaders, these children that grow up like that. They're like lousy kings. That's how they grow up, because it's what they are, essentially, or dictators. And they generally don't know what's going on. They got advisors. They might listen to them. They might not. Just stupid kids, that grow up and now they're stupid adults. They talk about them going to Oxford and Harvard. What happens when the ones, usually just the cousins, the lower down, go there, because it's not considered, cricket to send the son of the king over there, and the son of the king would be sitting there and studying and all that. That's not for the king's son, So, this kid doesn't know what the heck he wants to do. 1 month he's with Iran, the next month he's with Trump. He's just round and round. Then the kid goes out and makes a mutual defense pact, military, with Pakistan. And now Pakistan is having to face the prospect of attacking Iran on behalf of Saudi Arabia. And that's one of the reasons that's highly motivating them to create a ceasefire peace deal, is they don't want that. But they did send already 13,000 soldiers plus aircraft into Saudi Arabia on the protect side right now. So what Trump is going after is what happened in Venezuela. He wants to happen in Iran, but Iran is a lot more bloody. Trump would have bombed Venezuela, and in Venezuela, he could easily have gone in on the ground without that many soldiers. Why not that many soldiers? Because American air support is so super superior to what they have in Venezuela. It's like, threefold better or fivefold better. It's no match, okay? Not a match, okay? It's like having Tyson fight, a 10th grade school bully. I mean, it's a joke, and Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, more than Saudi, more than America. Okay. And Trump is controlling that. Apparently, the new government is not giving Trump any grief. His approach to it is pretty simple. You want to live, you want to stay here, you want Rolls Royces and mansions. I'm okay with that. It's fine with me. Just listen. Walk with me, and you'll have yachts and jets and everything. And they're saying, oh, okay. And, will they get yachts and jets? And yeah, sure. Trump will make sure they do. He likes that. Will they get, sophisticated stealth aircraft? Heck no. Are they going to get really good tanks with reactive body armor? No. Are they going to get, a lot? No, wait, they might get some serious missile defense systems, Trump doesn't really have a problem with giving people like this defensive weapons. He wants somebody protecting the oil, that's for sure. Okay, and that's Patriots and Thads and yeah, no problem. Does he want him getting stealth submarines and stuff like that? No, 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 no. Will he mind them having some simplex, armored personnel carriers and helicopters and simple tanks to protect the country from civil unrest? That's fine. He doesn't care about that. But he's not going to give them a lot of that. Now, if they want to expand their healthcare system, well, yeah, do it. They want to put manufacturers in there to make shoes or basketballs. Yeah, he doesn't care. Yeah, go ahead, do it. He doesn't care. You want to make soda pop? Yeah, go do it. So what about if they want to make military alliances with other countries? Oh, no. No. Okay. So they're not in the mode of, taking arms to Trump. Maduro was. And Maduro is sitting around in some federal penitentiary. Eventually, they're going to have to bring this guy to trial. He's probably got $1 million lawyers. And it's, what are they going to, you think there's going to be a federal judge that's going to say, well, this is a wrong kidnapping, then he's been put here unjustly and I'm releasing him. That ain't going to happen. And if it did, the Justice Department would appeal it to a higher court. And, that ain't happening. Maduro's doomed. He might just, live for, they might just keep him alive in jail or they may kill him, the death penalty. I don't know. Is it possible that Trump had Maduro transported to the White House or perhaps a military base and he went on the military base and interrogated the guy? Nah, Trump would never do it. The CIA and NASA and military intelligence would do that. Okay, no doubt about it. And where would they do it? Well, they would do it probably in the jail. They got access to the jail. They just go put him in a room, bring him a pastrami sandwich and French fries and some cake or something and coffee, and have chats. The chats go good. Maybe they even let him make phone calls that they could listen to. All right. So, Greenland. Trump didn't walk away from Greenland. He just didn't get around to it yet. Greenland is Denmark, and Denmark can do nothing about it except complain diplomatically. Trump's people probably investigated it, and they do feel there's massive oil reserves in Greenland that can be developed. Plus, it has defense capability. And there's very few people there. So if Trump has to take it over and support the place economically, it's a cheap deal, no problem. Strategically of great military importance to protect America. Now, Canada. Canada has a pretty generous amount of oil. When Trump gets around to it, will he do something with that oil if he wants to in Canada? Well, he'll do something. He's probably undermining the government of Canada. He didn't get around to it. When he gets around to it, he will. he's got to knock off Cuba, which has nothing to do with oil. It's protection, military. He's got to keep Venezuela going. He's got to finish Iran. Then he'll do Greenland. Then he'll get around to Canada. Is he going to rob the Canadian oil? Well, not really. What he's basically interested in is making sure Canada only sells oil on the US dollar. Then leave him alone. And Canada's not really going to give that much of a hoot about it, you know. Mexico, ditto. Sell on the US dollar only. And he'll influence them. Oil prices, reduce production, increase production, stuff like that. Now, here's where it gets dicey. What Trump wants to do is never going to happen because prophecy tells us that. He wants to get his hands on controlling the oil in Iran. Then after he does that, of course, there can't be much of a military left at all in Iran to make that work. And then he's going to be in a position to dictate comfortably to Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia. Comfortably dictate to them. Production, step it up, cut it back, raise prices, lower prices, everything on the US dollar. But he's going to be controlling them to some extent, and the Iranian oil under complete control, basically. So he's making himself the oil czar. And he's perfectly willing, ready, and able to knock out the Russian oil altogether, just take them out of the marketplace. He doesn't care. That forces people to come to him, and you don't get a free lunch out of Trump. You want something from him, what are you going to give to him? Okay? Same with Venezuela oil and American oil. Now, with Venezuela oil, American oil, and Iranian oil, he's got it knocked. Now, let's talk about Trump's fallback plan. He's not doing well in Iran. We're being told there's like 40 missile cities. Other people were saying there's like 100. And the implication is they haven't broken a lot of them out yet and have started using them. Do I think that's true? I think I don't know. I think they don't know either. It's possible that Iran is using restraint like that. Not likely, though, but possible. But I think unlikely. But as the case may be, he hasn't shut them down. Iran seems to be happy that the missiles aren't flying around now, and the bombs aren't dropping, and the drones aren't moving, and they're pretty happy about that, but it ain't going to stay that way. Lindsey Graham said that a lesson that's learned by America recently is that the guys with the suits in Iran that are going to the negotiations aren't in control. The IRGC is in control. So the guys with the suits get to go say what they want to say, and the IRGC doesn't listen to them, just goes and does what they think they want. And Trump's not negotiating with the right people. They may not negotiate with Trump. Once the war with Iran starts up, we're going to start up with Hezbollah. And they know that. And they're trying to give Hezbollah a break for some reason. Now, we're not bombing Hezbollah right now. We're doing things on the ground. So we're still securing our position. We're still moving ahead. But we're not bombing them, which is what Trump really wanted to stop. Because you're getting collateral damage to the nation of Lebanon when you do that. Trump disarming Hezbollah, that'll be the day. Oh, come on, he's never disarmed Hamas. He probably thinks when he cuts the head off of Iran, Hamas and Hezbollah and those characters just dry up. He's probably right. So plan B is he can't get rid of Iran. Now, let's get this understood. When Iran puts together all their reservists, the Bajis, the IRGC, the regular army, and their Air Force and their Navy and all that, they got about 1 million people. And that means you need about 3 million people for classical invasion. Okay? Invasion/occupation. Now, of course, America is so advanced in many areas. Anyway, look, Trump doesn't have but about maybe if you push it, he's got 1.5 million military. And he's got them all spread around the world. They're in Europe, they're in the Caribbean, they're in Asia, they're all over the place, in the Middle East. They're in, to some extent, Central South America. He can't fund or carry out a ground invasion of Iran. That's absurd. He can't do it. If he hooks up with NATO, can they combine do it? Not really. He has to. They'd have to add more countries in. Like, it's unlikely. They might try to do it with 1 million, which is tit for tat, because the air superiority of America is so superior. It might it might think they can make it work. I don't think so. I don't think so. I can't come up with a big plan unless a lot of nations join in. Look, India had 2 ships attacked. Now let's talk about Modi. Modi could be a mean go-getter, okay? And Modi could also be a punk. When he got into the fights with Pakistan a few months ago, he got into a punk mode. A few years ago, he got into some fights with China about border dispute, and he punked out. Now, China is a very powerful nation, and a fight with Iran, with India, would definitely cause tremendous damage to India. And I don't think the Chinese are as crazy, or I don't think Modi's as crazy as the Chinese. So he said, well, this isn't a good thing. They could have that piece of land 14,000 feet up in the Himalayas that you can't breathe the air in. It's okay. They can have it, right? All right. Pakistan and him, he didn't really make any serious concessions at all to Pakistan, but he didn't want to fight them. They're right on the border. They can fight, and it's damaging. And he just didn't have any interest in invading Pakistan. They're not the best of friends, but they didn't decide to have an encounter. Now his ships are getting attacked while he's trying to get oil. Was he trying to get oil from Iran? No, I don't believe so at all. I believe he was trying to get oil from these other countries over there. Now, if Modi doesn't get oil, Modi dries up. Okay, India could easily go into civil war. He has a substantial Muslim population there. And if economic unrest sets in, they may use it as an excuse to rise up and get rid of him. Believe me, they would love to get rid of him. He's running a Hindu regime. Hinduism is heavily based on statue worship, and Islam rejects that mightily. So they would break the idols. So he doesn't want to see that happen. In other words, Modi is sitting there on a powder keg. He has extremely poor people living there. And he's got tremendously corrupt government. Anybody that lives there will tell you that. The corruption is bad. The people are still operating on some sort of caste system. So the middle class, if they get educated, they get by. They're okay. Like, what does get by mean? They have some sort of car. They have plenty of food. They eat the local cuisine, but they get what they want. They generally have water delivered to the house because the water quality of the tap is pretty bad. I mean, he's got a rough road to hoe. Does he give them freedom? Well, they got freedom as long as you're not getting into criminality and, overthrowing the government type activities. He pretty much leaves you alone. Well, what do you mean? If you wanted to start a software company or open up a restaurant or, a delivery service, and probably just go ahead and do it. You wanted to make shoes, just go open up a factory. I don't think he cares about things like that. Pay your taxes. Don't overthrow the government. Don't become a drug dealer. Don't become engaged in criminal activities, illegal gambling, or, he's not that interested in, he's trying to get the country economically viable. He probably never will, because they're worshiping sticks and stones, but he's trying to get the country, viable. So the lower class do pretty bad. They don't do well at all. The wages over there are extremely low. Without oil, in India, the factories aren't going to run. Okay? The people aren't going to get electricity. That means there's no internet. That means a lot of things. A lot of the cooking they do is probably off of appliances that are electric. My understanding from a guy I know in India is that they eat a lot of rice there. They eat rice with everything. Could compare it to eating bread with everything in America, I suppose. People don't always eat bread in the morning with breakfast, but a lot of people eat toast, which is bread. Lunch, eating bread with lunch. Oh yeah, that's dominant. You got sandwiches, you're eating bread, and then you go to a restaurant and they put bread on the table. It could be sourdough, it could be Italian style bread, a baguette, it could be rolls, it could be, that's pretty common. And dinner too. So yeah, so instead they don't hit the bread, they hit the rice. Which is healthier for you? Well, undoubtedly, I would say the rice, because it's natural food, you know. Um, so Modi has to get oil now. So Trump's telling Modi, come to me. I got oil. Come to me, right? Said the spider to the fly. So Modi goes to see Trump and get oil, and Trump is, after, 20 or 30 big tankerfuls, Trump may, come on over to the White House, spend a couple of days. We'll play golf, or if you don't play golf, we'll do something. We'll find something to do. Don't worry. Let's talk, And then Trump's going to want something out of Modi. Guaranteed. I guarantee it. And I don't know what it's going to be, investments, or maybe Trump wants minerals if Modi has them, or maybe Trump wants to make things in India dirt cheap, and doesn't want Modi stabbing him in the back, like learning how to make it and then throwing them out and making it themselves, So Trump would want something out of Modi, and that's for sure. He might want Modi to get into some sort of a military alliance or something. And that could be dangerous, because it would have to be a two-way street, and a war with Pakistan and India could readily break out. And because they got a border, and China and India have a border, and that could be a war that readily breaks out. So NATO wouldn't want to do that. I don't know. But yeah, so you got some problems. Modi got bad problems. What Modi could do, and I don't know if he's in the mood for that right now. He could pick up the phone and talk to Iran. Would they talk to him? Oh yeah, they talk to him. No problem, they'll talk to him. And they're going to tell him, we need the $20 million per ship, and you could come in and out. But then Modi's going to say, yeah, but the Americans ain't going to let me go through. If I pay you $20 million toll, Trump's going to maybe even confiscate the ship. So Modi doesn't have a lot of hope with the Iranians. So the Iranians say yes, he wires them $20 million or he gives them Bitcoin, whatever, right? Then what the heck happens? Trump doesn't let the Indians ship in. He says that you're going to India, you son of a gun, you paid the tolls. I told you not to pay the tolls. You see? So is Modi going to sit there and say, you let me in, Donald, or I'm going to go to war against America? No. What Trump will say is, Modi, go to my country and I'll fill you up. Go all you want. Send 10 ships a day. I don't care. I'll fill you up. This is serious with India. Now, what if Trump could persuade Modi to join a coalition with him against Iran? Bingo! Does that lead us to the fulfillment of prophecy in Jeremiah 49? Bingo! Yep. Does Modi have a big military? Oh, heck yeah. Does Modi have a big Navy, aircraft carriers and all? Oh, yeah. Does Modi have a lot of stealth jets and stuff? No. Does he have modern and, reasonably modern jets? Yeah. Could Modi drop a lot of old conventional bombs on Iran? Oh, yeah. Can Modi put ships in the Persian Gulf that can blow the go-fast boats out of the water? Yeah. That would be Trump's goal with Modi right now. He's got Modi where he wants him. He can push Modi two ways, and he'd probably do a double whammy on Modi. Okay? One, Modi, come to me. Come to me, all you heavily burdened, and get oil from me. And, Modi might sit there and say, I got no choice. All right, I'll go over there. I'll get oil from you, right? Trump will say, yeah, I'll give you 10 tankers a day, 15, whatever you want. All right, Modi goes over there and gets his oil. That makes his oil happy. Now Trump says, Modi, you got to come in this coalition. We got to stop this. We got to make your life easier. What do you want to schlep all the way over to America for? You're right there in the Indian Ocean. You could run right into the Persian Gulf, and you can get oil from all these other, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi, they all love to sell you oil. What do we need this for? Let's work with me. We'll get rid of Iran. And Modi scratches his head and says, yeah, I guess it's cheaper to get rid of Iran than schlep all the way to America. And, okay, so now he's in. Okay? Are we going to see India join in? Yeah, I think we are. We have seen them send ships into the Middle East in the past 3 years, but then they back out, like with the Houthis, and then they back out. How does Iran and Yemen get rid of them? They say, oh, you're not America, you're my friend, you're a friend of mine. Yeah, you come. But now that's not working. Iran's saying, you're my friend, give me $20 million a ship. So they send 3 ships in there at $60 million. Modi's blood will boil. His blood vessels will burst. $60 million to those, you go crazy. He'll go nuts. All right. So if everything fails, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia are going, and Iraq and Syria, they're going down. Their refineries will be blown up. Their storage tanks will be blown up by Iran. their oil wells themselves would be blown up. It would take years to rebuild. Years. And their airports will be gone. Their ports and piers. Most of them have already gotten hit. And then they'll hit their infrastructure, their water desalinators and stuff like that, which they run on also. And then where does that leave things? Bad. There's no more oil coming out of the Middle East, and there's a shortage. And what will the market do? Oh, boom, 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 2, 3, 4, 500. If all these countries aren't producing, forget 200 a barrel. Forget about it. Forget about it. Go to 3 to 500 a barrel. People's lives are going to change. Why? I'm telling you, go to Google and look. They had cars burning water, running on water back around 1900, 1910. I think even in the 1890s they had cars running water. Yeah, they had cars running on propane, gas. And they had cars running on gasoline. They might have had turpentine and kerosene running cars. I don't know. I'm ignorant of that. I have no idea. These greedy jackasses got rid of everybody making the water cars. That's right. They had a tank, like, a tank of water. And they had a little a burner underneath it running on kerosene usually. And it was a flame and it would heat the water up. So it probably was burning all the time and keeping the water warm or hot or whatever. And then you cracked it up and you got the water boiling and you got steam. And then when the engine got going, you had the power probably to keep the heat going some other way without burning the kerosene. Or maybe you just had to keep burning the kerosene. But this thing, a gallon of kerosene probably went 100 miles or something like that, So imagine if you were getting 100 miles to the gallon of gas, that would be a lot better. Now, I don't trust them with the gas. I bought a Volkswagen Rapid Diesel around 1980. And this thing, I leased it actually, and this thing I was getting up to 56 miles a gallon on diesel, which was about $1 a gallon. It had a 10-gallon tank. I used to fill up every 6 or 8 weeks. Was I able to drive this up and down the steep hills in San Francisco? Yeah, it was tricky. I had a stick shift, but I was able to do it. It was a little tricky. You sometimes, I'd use the handbrake but I got the hang of it and I was able to do it pretty successfully. I'm talking pretty steep hills. Not little hills, steep hills. Of course, it was easy to just avoid the steep hills and it was much more relaxing, but I was able to go up the steep hills when I wanted to. But when you got hit by a red light and you were on the steep hill, it was a little bit of a pain in the neck. Now, we're talking 40-something years ago, 46 years ago, don't you think by now they could have got it up to at least 66 miles a gallon or 70 miles a gallon? They didn't want to. That's the bottom line. They didn't want to. The car market in the I don't know where we want to jump in. If we want to jump in the 1900, 1910, they were weird cars by our standards. They didn't have an enclosed passenger compartment. They had seats and they had some sort of a convertible cover you could pull over it that would not have side coverage. It would, it was weird, and they had a windshield. They didn't have side windows. These were the early cars, and they just sat in them. And the people, they had different layers of seats. They had sometimes they had a front seat where the driver and a passenger were. Then they had a middle seat. Then they had another seat, and they did stadium seating when they went up, so you could see. That also meant you got the wind in your face. I used to have a car called the Triumph TR3 as a kid in college, and that had when you kept the top off, you were very low to the ground. You had no side windows. You had a little flat windscreen. And I used to ride around for a few hours on the weekend with that thing, and I'd go home and take a shower, and I'd see the dirt come out of my hair. You'd do well to wear a hat when you drove that thing, I didn't realize. I just jump in the shower and wash it out, But that's pretty annoying to do. It had a canvas roof I could put on manually, and then it had side curtains, which were little window things you put on the side, and the car wasn't a lot of fun when you put that stuff in it because you couldn't really see it clear that well, and it was cold. The car had a heater that was pretty lousy. In the Florida winters, it was freezing, But moving along, they don't make improvements on the cars, and so so the cars were that way, and then when you got into the 20s and 30s, the cars were closed, and they were big by our standards today. There was tons of room inside, and they put really nice seats in there with all kinds of great fabrics. Leather wasn't that popular. They'd put, fine wool and, really nice fabrics in there, beautiful carpets, headliners, and solid, beautiful woods in there. And, the motors weren't that powerful, but they worked. They didn't have any real options in there. I don't believe they had electric windows back then. They might have had some cars that had it. I don't know. They gave you a lousy ride. The tires weren't that great. Some of them had really big trunks. They had convertibles of a sort. And they were heavy. The steel was thick. Then they had deadly accidents too. When you got going fast and you hit another car that had a thick steel too, you'd just kill each other. But if you were going fast and you hit a little car or something like that, there weren't very many little cars out there to hit. So anyway, then when you got into the 30s, the cars were getting more comfortable. The 20s cars, some of them were good, but the 30s, they were pretty comfortable. You could, you would stay pretty darn dry in the rain and the snow, and they had wipers. You had heaters in there. Air conditioning was still not that popular. They did have it in the 40s, I think, but in the late 40s. The cars were made to be comfortable and large, and the metal was heavy. As time rolled on, the metal got thinner and thinner. The 20s cars was really thick, heavy metal. 30 cars, it got thinner, and the 40 cars thinner yet. And the 40s and 50s were about the same. And in the 60s, they started in the latter 60s getting thin. I had a 57 Cadillac once as a collecting thing, And man, the metal on that was really heavy. I mean, and it had electric seats, electric windows. I think the steering wheel telescope. I don't think it tilted. It had a self-closing trunk. You'd start closing the trunk, and it would take over and close itself and gently lock it up. It had great carpets, leather seats. Huge thing, like riding around on your sofa in your living room. Uh, because gas was, you were paying 15, 19 cents a gallon. People didn't care. They'd go gas up and pull a few bills out of their wallet, and then they'd have a tank full of gas. You know, um, it wasn't expensive. I mean, it was cheap. Um, Even like 1968, I remember it was 25 cents a gallon. Okay, we're back. This moron thing uh, put up a screen for me to update and block the live stream. You can't, when I first got on the internet, nobody would ever do that. I mean, they're so nasty now, they do that, and the young people put up with it. They don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's absurd. This is the satanic people. So, look, if Trump's running the oil, people got to buy from Trump. They got to buy on the US dollar, or Trump could blow out the Federal Reserve Bank and say, this is a Ponzi scheme. This is ridiculous. We're not going to spend the rest of our lives paying off this debt. I'm declaring the debt uncollectible. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's canceled. Okay? We're not paying it. I'm shutting the Federal Reserve down. We're going to a digital currency. Let's call it the Trump coin, but he'll probably call it something like that. And all the people that are going to buy oil from around the world from him are going to have to use this new digital currency, or where are they going to go for oil? Russia's no more. Iran's no more. Who are they going to get oil from? And if they don't want to use his new Trump digital money, then they're not getting oil. And if they want to buy his oil, they got to buy the other American goods. Now, America can generate enough fertilizer for itself to grow all kinds of food. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm telling you this is what Trump thinks he might do. Okay? America used to have an isolationist policy after World War II. America made their own cars, they made their own boats, they made their own trucks, they made their own guns, they made their own clothing, and they grew their own food to a good extent, except they had already exploited Central South America, and they were importing a lot from there. That was not, they could have grown it in America, but they didn't. They were bringing up bananas, strawberries, things like that. Okay. Beef, no, they had their own beef in America. They were bringing their own beef, their own pork, their own chicken. They would do it themselves. Then I don't know what happened, and you started seeing the government of America was paying farmers not to grow products, not to grow produce, and ridiculous things like that. Now, if they want to go back to growing their own food in America and enough food to sell to other countries, it would be easy if God ever let him. But this is never going to happen. But Trump saying, well, we'll have our own fertilizer, we'll have our own oil, and we'll grow our own food again, and we'll export food like crazy, and we'll export oil, and we'll export lots of things. And the nations are just going to have to use my new digital currency and suck it up. If they don't like it, tough luck. Now, the people that are holding the bonds and stuff like that and the dollar crashes out, well, what he'll do is convert them over, give them a credit. They have, you know, $900 billion in bonds. He'll give them some equivalent, whatever he decides on money in the new digital currency to shut them up. That's with the countries. The people in the banks, the money will just transition. He'll do that. So there'll be a rather gentle transition, and everything will be digital. So there's not going to be any such thing as somebody not paying taxes. There's not going to be any such thing as the government needing to get search warrants to figure out who's got what money and where. None of this is going to go on. Okay? Trump will reduce the taxes. He may make the taxes just a sales tax. I don't know what he'll do, but he's certainly not going to continue with the IRS. When you get rid of the Federal Reserve, the need for the IRS is idiotic. So that thing will go away. They'd probably run it for 2 or 3 years and settle out all their disputes with people easily, quickly, and simply, and just let people settle it out at a small price, and that would be that. And could it be done? Yeah. And would that get rid of the American debt? Yeah. So now you got the American currency with no debt, no debt. And all the commerce, not all, but much of the commerce in the world is taking place with that US dollar. So Trump can make America great again. But I promise you, and I'm telling you for sure, if this ever happened, Trump is not going to ever, 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 ever in his life going to make the working people comfortable. Never. He'd die before he did that. The 1%, the very wealthy Satan bots, are going to benefit, okay, tremendously. Maybe another 5% of Satan bot, 5% of the country that are Satan bot will do good, but they're not going to be like the elite. And the rest of the people are just going to be working for these people, okay? What you'll be told is you're going to have a good job. And will you? Yeah. Will you have a nicer house? No, you'll have a house. You'll have an apartment. You'll have a house. Are you going to get a nicer car? Well, you get a more modern car, Clothing, the same thing, okay? Is Trump ever going to let it be that you can have money in the bank and not pay interest and not have to borrow? Oh, he'd kill himself before he let you get to that level. That's not for you. You got no chance with this guy, okay? They'll get rich again, and he'll convince the people that they're rich. Your passport will be worth a lot. You'll be, if it ever happens, which you won't, you'd be able to travel visa-free all around the world. Your U.S. digital currency will go very far. If you go to visit foreign countries, you'll be able to stay at really nice hotels and eat really good food and use taxis and stuff like that, all of that stuff. Are the people gonna, what he wants you to do would be like the 50s, okay, in America. You're loyal and working for your employer as Satan bot dog, and you're making a nice wage, and you got health insurance, you got 1 or 2 cars, you got air conditioning and heat in your house, low fuel costs. You got food on the table, you got plenty of meat, plenty of potatoes and all that, right? Stuff like that. And he'll eradicate most of crime with this digital currency. Because you're not going to walk around with any kind of cash anymore. So that'll be the end of the drug trade, and the cartels will go away. People are still going to mug people, rape people, burglar people, break into cars. That'll still happen, Ultimately, he'll take the guns away from everybody, like they all do. They all want that, okay? But he's using the oil. So plan B is if he can't get rid of Iran, Iran will get rid of the Gulf states oil, and then he's still sitting on Venezuela oil and American oil, and they're going to have to buy from him. If there's no Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq pushing oil out there, tremendous demand for American oil. The demand will be up, threefold, fourfold. Prices will be high, and he'll clean up. There's people now, paying $150 a barrel in the real world. We want, quick delivery. You don't want to just buy silly futures contracts, stuff like that. So what the heck is Trump able to do with, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 soldiers, whatever you think he might be bringing in? I don't think it's that much. And he's already got 50,000 spread around the Middle East. Is that anywhere near enough for a ground invasion? Only a suicide ground invasion, which the Pentagon wouldn't do. No way. He's trying to do something with the oil. Maybe he thinks he could leave this regime in place, take the oil over, start selling it to Exxon or, some other oil company that works with him. And just steal the oil right under Iran's noses. But he's got to stop those missile cities, and he knows it. Once the missile cities are stopped, he thinks he's going to get the Iranian oil. I don't think it'll come to it. He might briefly get it, but I don't think he will. They might blow the oil themselves up. Trump doesn't think of things like that. He didn't think of the human hostages, the human shields they did around the electrical plants, and the, what was he going after? Two things. I remember the nuclear sites or the missile cities, and they put human shields over there, men, women, and children. Oh, the bridges. It was the bridges and the electric generators. That's where they put the people. And Trump didn't understand that they would do that, so he got confused. Now he learned. So I don't know what Trump is. He's got to get rid of. So I think he's going to try boots on the ground to disable these electric generators, and then I think the missile cities. I mean, then I think if he can do it, and they don't have another 40 or 50 of them that nobody knows where they are, is that a possibility? It is, but I'd give it a 25%, not much. If that's the case, it's going to be bad, And if Trump realizes, and when he realizes that he cannot effectively stop the missile cities, and I think he probably can and will. Okay. But if he can't, then he's going to destroy the infrastructure. Okay. Which is water desalination and the electricity. The bridges, with or without bridges, if you got no water and no electricity, what's the difference? Okay. the other thing that could happen with the Gulf state closure, NATO called Trump up the other day and said, "Do you want help?" I think Trump's going to call them back and say, "Hey, do you guys want to start paying $18 at the pump? Or maybe now you want to come give me some help here with Iran?" And you know what I think they're going to say? I think they're going to say, "Yeah, we'll come help you." And what would Trump be looking to do? Probably collect at least 12 or 25 extra warships. He'd be looking to get probably at least another 150 planes to bomb Iran with, which is a lot, guys. That's a lot, okay? And maybe even more. And they'd want drones. They can easily come up with that. Let's take a look at who's got big militaries in NATO. What did I get here? Wait a minute. The home of storytelling. What am I? I don't even know I had this in my computer. I don't even know what it was. 1 second. They're starting to come back to life here. I'm getting the physical therapist is coming over here today. That's pretty interesting. I'll see how that works out. Okay, let us look at the list. Very simple, short list of NATO member states. Just that, nothing else. I canceled my Grok AI yesterday. I think it was junk. I mean, I wasn't using it. It wasn't that helpful. And I had another one I was using called Monica that had different AIs, but I didn't use that much either. I'm going around with like AI forums and stuff, and everybody in the world believes that all the AI is biased and you can't get around it. And they also believe that they have safety protocols in there that they call safety protocols, things they don't want you to do. Okay. And that's bias. They all have that. So they did mention one that's holding itself out to be that way, but when people tested it, they see the bias there. So there is no AI without bias. I find that Chat GPT is crappy now. It makes a lot of mistakes. It makes big omissions. It cuts corners. I ask it to do something. It doesn't do it. I got to ask it the next time and sometimes 3 times, and then it'll do it. It's like a fight. I got the Gemini, which I expanded to. It's Google Gemini. It was their AI something version Pro or something like that. I don't think it's like $10 a month, something like that. It's not a lot of money. and I got that, and I use that, and I still use ChatGPT. I find ChatGPT for some things is good. What I'm going to look for next is a shopping AI that's good for worldwide shopping. They make them. So in other words, if I want to buy something, it'll shop for me all around the world and tell me where I can get it at a good price. That's what I'm looking for. So I'll keep you up on that. Okay, let's see who got a big military in here. I'm looking down the list. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to look through it. France got a good sized military. They could kick in. Germany, same thing. They could kick in. Hungary got a little bit, nothing great. Italy, yeah, they got a pretty good size. Aircraft carriers and all. They're pretty good size. Like Montenegro, what do they got? North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, they got something not too big. Portugal, no. Romania, they got something, but not too big. Spain, they're crackpots. Turkey got something, but it's hard to get them to work with you. The UK got substantial military. So you got about 5 or 6 countries that actually got, but the others could come up with stuff too. Let me kind of explain. Let's say you get into Belgium, okay? Well, they might come up with 4 or 5 jets or 1 Navy ship, right? Czech Republic, same thing, a handful of planes and maybe 1 Navy ship. Denmark again, Estonia, Finland, again, ditto, ditto. Greece, ditto. Iceland, probably not. Latvia, yeah. Lithuania, yeah. Netherlands, okay, you got the idea. They each come up with a little bit, okay? But if you got 15 or 18 countries that each kick in 1 naval vessel and, 3 to 5 planes, you add it up, you got something, and you put the whole thing together, you got a tremendous amount. Now, what about if he tries to build up troops? Well, then you're gonna still not get a large amount. He could probably collect 100,000. But what are you gonna do with that? See, Iran will be happy to shift to a ground war on their turf, where they're hidden in caves and mountains and tunnels, and they got tanks and they got artillery and they got little 2 and 3/4 inch missile launching pods. And they got shoulder-fired anti-tank weapons and, stuff like that. So you're going to have a bloodbath because they're going to be hiding, shooting at the people who are not hidden. So what do I think Trump's going to do now? He's definitely going to pull other countries in. Do I think the other countries are going to come in? Oh, yeah, with the Persian Gulf calls, yeah, they're going to come in. What they want is they don't want to see Trump sit there and say, okay, no ships are getting out or in the Persian Gulf. Well, that doesn't help them. And then Trump says, well, come buy oil from me. Well, they don't want that. They want to see oil go down to $60 a barrel, or 50 even, or 40. They don't want to see this. Hey, let's check the prices now. Let's see. Current now oil prices for Brent and WTI. Oh, we're back up again. Ha ha ha. Yeah, Trump ain't. It ain't working for Trump. Your Brent, which we could call Europe 111, it was in the 80s the other day. And today's Sunday, not Monday. Monday is going to go up even more, I'll bet. And 96 to 97 for the WTI. Wow. Okay, so it's getting right back up there. I won't bother with the gas prices still during the week because it's on the weekend. They're probably not adjusting. Let's take a look at what's going on with the gold and the silver, because that's going to have its day. Oh, it's going to have its day. Big time. Please pray for me. I can't find a password for something on my computers I really need. Please pray I get that straightened out, that I find the password for something I really need. Thank you. Yeah, gold's creeping up a little and silver a little, not much yet. 48.29 on gold, so we're getting closer to 5,000 again. And your silver's just $80.70. So it ain't going lower, okay? It's keeping it up there. And that's good. That's not bad. When do I think stuff is going to happen with Trump? Well, he's going to wait till his ceasefire expires, which is Tuesday, but Wednesday. I don't think he's going to accelerate into that unless they start shooting missiles and drones. Attacking the ships is something else. Will Iran start shooting missiles again because they want Trump to open up the Persian Gulf? Yes. If Trump waits long enough, they'll do that. Sad, but they will. So I think Wednesday we're going to see Trump say, well, I can't get anywhere with them. The peace meeting or the negotiation meeting for Monday in Islamabad, Pakistan, did I say that right? Yeah, is canceled. But Pakistan said that's canceled, so they're not even talking. The Iranians are calling Trump absurd, and they say that, Trump knows our capability, what we want, and, they don't want to sit there and have ridiculous meetings with him. They're not interested in dragging this thing out anymore for time. Okay, so the announcement says Pakistan diplomat, the second round of negotiations between Iran and the United States will not take place on Monday as we expected. That was rather diplomatic. I'm going to quickly go through some of the news with you like that, quick blurbs, and you'll get an idea what's going on. The IRGC, those are like the Gestapo or the SS troops of World War II. IRGC have launched drones equipped with audio systems and loudspeakers towards ships in the Oman Gulf. Well, that's the Sea of Oman, in my understanding, in the area and beyond, to the attention of all ships following the failure of the U.S. government to fulfill its commitment in the negotiations. Iran declares the complete closure of the Strait of Hormuz, no vessels of any kind or nationality is allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz until further notice. So you got to picture this. Ships are floating around miles and miles, maybe 60, 80 miles or so away from the Straits of Hormuz, and a drone flies over. That's scary because the drone flying over could easily go down to Davy Jones's locker. The ship goes, and it has loudspeakers, and it's giving them this announcement. They're challenging Trump for control of the Middle East. They don't understand. They lost. They're still playing their Trump card. By mistake, I said that. They're playing their card with the missile cities, thinking they're going to bring people to their knees. They're not. It hasn't happened yet. So Senator Lindsey Graham says that the IRGC is running the country, not the guys with the suits that they've been negotiating with. So the guys with the suits could tell the IRGC what to do and what not to do, but the IRGC doesn't listen. If they want to, they'll comply. It's that kind of thing, I believe. This is CNN saying they got this from a senior IDF official. We will create in southern Lebanon what is called Yellow Line, preventing Lebanese residents from returning to 55 villages in southern Lebanon. These these are not real regular people that are bakers, plumbers, mechanics, shepherds, candlestick makers. These are Hezbollah impersonating being civilians, and they move in with their family and put weapons like missiles and other things right in their house. We found them in their house. The ceasefire allows us, meaning Israel, to destroy Hezbollah infrastructure within this area, the Yellow Line. Well, no bombing, though. Trump doesn't want them bombing it anymore because that creates a lot of property damage, too. I don't know how many miles this is going to be. I hope it's at least to the Litani River. I think Netanyahu had a sufficient amount of time to talk to Trump, and I think Trump's realizing the Iranians are a bunch of lunatics, so he's just loosening the yoke on Israel right now. This is interesting. A journalist confronts Trump with the gaps between his recent statements on Iran and the Iranian denials. Uh, Journalist, you said that everything has already been agreed upon. Iran is saying something else. This is true. Trump, they have to say something else because they have their people they have to cater to. I'm just saying it like it is. So he's basically saying that the people they got to cater to is the military. Okay, the USS Gerald Ford is finished with repairs, what, in Greece or something? And it's right now it's in the Red Sea, traversing the Red Sea with two destroyers. That's its escorts. Two destroyers. The Houthis said they're going to join into the fight and work on the Red Sea, but I haven't seen it happen yet. I don't think they're seriously committed. So we got to watch this. But when the carrier group finishes with the Red Sea, then they got to hook a left turn, pass by a lot of Americans, and then the carrier spent more than a month um, doing repairs. So the guys on the carrier also had time to heal. They didn't get killed; they got burned from that fire. So I think a lot of them got healed up that weren't significantly damaged. Okay. Two Indian flag vessels were attacked by Iran gunboats, those are the go-fast boats, in the Straits of Hormuz. The crew is safe. One of the two vessels involved in the incident was a very large crude oil carrier called a VLCC. And that's a huge oil tanker, massive thing. And they were firing at it. And it got out of there, and they apparently let it go. Now, the problem with the go fast boats is they have up to 3,000 of them. 1,500 would be the very low estimate. I think it's someplace between 2 and 3,000. Now, the Americans may have destroyed a very small amount of them, 50 or 30 or something like that, but not a significant amount. These things could definitely destroy a big civilian vessel. All of Virginia is now under drought watch. Warning advisory. Georgia's on a very serious drought, the whole state of Georgia. Guys, America's getting hit with drought, and you're not going to hear it from the federal government of America because they don't want you to think about it. They don't want you to worry. They don't want you to start thinking, oh, what's God doing? God doesn't like America. They're afraid of that. And what does drought go hand in hand with? Wildfires. I will kindle fires in and about your city. I will dry up your sea, dry up your river, your streams. That's the prophecies in Jeremiah 50:51, pertaining to the daughter of Babylon. And you're seeing it now. The drought, 51% of America plus Puerto Rico has some degree of drought. 51%. If Iran starts firing, Israel's going to start wiping out Hezbollah, and Iran is trying to save Hezbollah. They want to keep them in the game. They don't want them knocked out. And Israel wants to knock them out. Then we can focus more heavily on the Iranian problem. The supreme leader of Iran, Mojtabi, can we call him Mojito? Mojtabi Khomeini, in a written message on Telegram, Iran's fleet is ready to inflict new defeats on the enemy. Now, this is likely the IRGC impersonating this Khomeini laying in a coma someplace, and they're talking about their navy or their fleet. It's the go fast boats. The big boats are pretty much gone. Trump got probably 99% of them. The big boats, no. That's their next dose. Trump's going to take part in a week-long public reading of the Bible in Washington, D.C., organized by conservative Christian leaders. So I think what's going to happen is Trump will either read some verses or just go there and he'll say some things and they'll have him on TV and, yeah, Jehovah's really going to like that transactional thing. Okay. I think the Gerald Ford's taking a chance that the Housies aren't going to go after him. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So that gives Trump two aircraft carrier, two. Okay, he's got the Abraham Lincoln. He's got the Gerald Ford. The Gerald Ford could fire. It could go into combat today. Okay, they're in the zone. They could work today if they had to. Right now, they could get in the fight. They're going to go be with the Abraham Lincoln, I believe, and then the George Bush is going to be here, but maybe not for 8-10 days. And they might keep the George Bush in the Mediterranean as a deterrent from any. This is coming from the Iranian Vice President Mohammad Reza Arif. Now, these are the suits that not the IRGC, so this could just be talk with no ability to back it up. The Straits of Hormuz is in Iran's hands. Either they give us what we deserve, or let's read between the lines, what we want at the negotiating table, or we will take it on the battlefield. Trump's statements are lies and not worth response. Okay, so they probably told something to Trump like, our demands, which is they control the Persian Gulf, they charge tolls, they can do nuclear development, they can develop missiles as they want, everybody pays war reparations, stuff like that. And they know Trump's not going to fulfill that, so they're just going to go to war. So the two Iranian tankers were hit, and a container ship was hit by drones, and it caught fire. So this is very serious, and Trump hasn't really tried to figure out what he's going to do about this. But Iran is making him look like a monkey. So I think what Trump is going to do is just keep every ship far away from crossing into the Straits of Hormuz, Persian Gulf. I mean, I don't know what else he could do that would have anything resembling effective associated with it. Let me jump into the live stream, see if we got questions, prayer requests, or anything like that. I don't have any prayer requests. I'm trying to, there we go. Do I got sound? There we go. Yeah, I got plenty of sound. Let me look for questions and prayer requests in the chat. I do come in and answer them if I can. Let me turn this down lower. Someone's asking me about power. No, we got plenty of power here. In Iran, they got some power outages, but I don't think anything serious right now. Water restrictions, not in Israel. In other countries around the world, they've got them. We're doing okay here. It's been quiet for a few days. But the tension is still here. The Israeli people are just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Any minute, it's gonna light up again. And we all know that. No, I'm not seeing any questions. So I'd say right now, Trump probably figures that Gerald Ford will be around the Abraham Lincoln by Wednesday. Tuesday, I don't know what time Tuesday, I forgot. Sometime on Tuesday, Trump, the ceasefire he gave them is up. So they got all day Sunday, all day Monday, all day Tuesday to get over to the Abraham Lincoln, which is, a lot. The thing can go roughly 25 miles an hour. So every 10 hours, 250 miles, right? So you got 600, you got 1,800 miles it can cover by Wednesday. So, sometime on Wednesday, Trump will say, well, we're not getting anywhere with Iran. There's no negotiation, no peace deal, and then, once the Gerald Ford carrier with their two destroyers is in position, whatever Trump wants that position to be, he'll start up again with Israel. He'll call Netanyahu up. Netanyahu goes, yes, no problem, Ben, no problem, Donald, I'm on the way. And we've probably serviced our planes, and the pilots are sleeping and having plenty of rest. They probably went home to see their families, and they sleep and play with the kids and stuff like that. And they should, and it's good they do that. And then they'll get called back, and we'll start up again. There's tons of equipment coming into Middle East, more soldiers. And guys, you don't use soldiers to attack go-fast boats. You could attack go-fast boats with destroyers. It's a dumb game because you're probably going to lose some destroyers. Your safe bet is to attack it with jets. So the A-10 Warthog things are really great for that, but they're low flyers and they're slow. But you can't fly at 1,200-1,400 miles an hour and try to put your guns on a go-fast boat. You could do a missile at that speed, I suppose, but they could evade a missile rather easily or not, but you're talking, a boat that's, 50, 60, 70, maybe 80 feet that could zig and zag like crazy. So, even if they and they could go fast for boats, they could go probably 45, 50, 55. So if they even see a missile, they can, and the missile might miss. But missiles are pretty good too, so they might not get away with it. What the A-10 Warthog would probably do is lay guns on them. 30 millimeter guns. Those shells are like, that's the closest thing to an artillery shell, and this thing could fire like, over 3,000 rounds a minute. So it doesn't go, brrr, it goes, brrr, brrr. They're amazing. And, 2-3 rounds of that from a go-fast into a go-fast boat is probably going to break the boat. or cause fires or kill the guys. It's going to damage the boat. But they're going to put like 6 or 8 rounds in the thing. And, if nothing else, you're going to have holes in the boat. What are they going to do with the boat taking water? Take a coffee cup and bail it out. What are they going to do? Well, they probably got a pump in there, but, it's probably not going to work effectively. So, no, the boat will probably be on fire, and probably some of the guys will get hit. But, if they got a lot of them, and the thing is, they store the Go Fast boats in a hardened facility, probably like Germany used to take their submarines and bring them inside a cave. They find places in the water where they can put them in a cave, the small U-boats, and they would go in there and they would work on them. So you couldn't really attack them unless you had a plane that launched missiles, which they didn't have they had them, but they weren't that great in World War II. So you could go in the opening of the cave and put a missile in there or something. But maybe that's why Trump, one of the many reasons he wants to use the ground forces for, is they'll find out where these Go Fast boats are. They got to be near the shore. Listen, they're not parking the Go Fast boats 3 miles offshore and then swimming to shore or taking Zodiacs. It's on the shore. So troops on the shore can blow them up, so Iran could build very hard facilities where you're going to have trouble just dropping regular bombs on it and getting it. So we'll have to see what happens. If Trump can't get rid of the missile cities, what comes next is he walks away from the oil and he just blows Iran up. Water desalinators, power grid, bridges, trains, everything. And then they got to leave their country. So if the people are abandoning their country of Iran because there's nothing there, the idiots in the missile cities could keep launching, because they've got K rations and they got bottles of water, so they got some staying power. So they could keep launching missiles at various countries until their number's up, and then they die. Or they might want to leave the country when everyone else leaves, which is probably the case. So I don't know if Trump knows it or not, but there's not going to be a viable country called Iran. And likely Elam is what it's called in the Bible. Yeah, Iraq will go with it and maybe a piece of Syria. Now, what happens to the Houthis in Yemen is they get destroyed. They're Edom, E-D-O-M. They get destroyed rather mightily and nobody ever lives there again, like the daughter of Babylon. So it's going to get it. Now, I don't know if it's going to get it. It doesn't tell us who's going to get it. With Elam, we got a great clue. It says destroyed by her enemies. Enemies, plural. So it can't be just Israel. So it's not Israel after redemption going out and destroying it. It's not that. Okay? So it's enemies. It could include Israel or not include Israel. So we could say, yeah, it's America and Israel. Well, that would meet the test, but just barely, because it's two. Does it sound better if NATO, to me, if NATO countries join in to do the dirty deed on Iran? Yeah, it sounds a lot better. NATO is ticked. NATO needs oil. NATO is not happy. NATO is mad. NATO is very mad. The EU is not happy. NATO is not the EU, but many NATO countries are in the EU. Okay, but the UK is a real big one, and they're not in it. Australia's in it. They're not in the EU, but a lot of them are. So, I think Trump's going to be working on getting a coalition. Now, the bad news is if he thinks he can get a coalition, not a lot might happen on Wednesday. It might drag out for 7 or 8 or 9 days, which gives him chance to get his George Bush carrier here, which he might like. Trump, I think, will go with two carrier groups, but I think he's happier with three. But I think he'll go with two. And Trump might try to just run the oil without, taking Iran over. I don't think he's that crazy, but he could. So, that's what the story of Trump is. And these other countries, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Oman, they're in Elam. That's part of Elam. These countries never existed in the Bible back then. Those names didn't appear anywhere. So they're part of Elam. So they're going to go. And as you've seen, they go. Their water desalinators are hit. Their airports are hit. Their refineries are hit. Their storage tanks are hit. They got many things hit. Ports, piers, all of them. They've all been hit. Saudi's been hit. Yeah. Are these guys going to ride up and join the attack against Iran? I think they will join the attack, and I think they're capable of, a few of them could send some kind of frigate or destroyer over there, and they could, send 5 or 8 or so aircraft each or something like that, pick up another 25, 30 planes. The additional aircraft from these other countries is going to add a lot of bomb dropping capability to Israel and America, I agree. But what it's really going to add is psychological. Iran's going to realize no nations are going to rise up against America and Israel now. They're the bad guys. They're going to sit there, that's no good. Okay? And they're going to realize they're going to be in for a lot of destruction. Are they going to surrender? I doubt it. I doubt it. They think they're going to win. They think that Europe and America don't have the guts to hang on and take the punishment they're going to dish out. That's what they think. They really do. And they're going to capitulate, pay war reparations, tell Iran they got no more sanctions of any sort, let Iran charge tolls. They're nuts. The Iranians are, crazy. You're going to understand that. They're complete whack jobs. They grew a country based in a revolution, a violent overthrow of the Shah. The Shah was a dictator. He liked buying diamonds the size of golf balls and Rolls Royces and all that stuff with the people's money. But he wasn't that bad to the people. He didn't make trouble in the world, and the people lived like Europeans. And he had an army, and I met people in the 70s, in the early 70s, before the overthrow, and they told me the army wasn't what I thought it was like. He says, we go to villages and we build roads and reservoirs, and we don't go around engaging in wars, but they are trained in war. And they also told me if you were a good guy, you didn't have any bad problems with the governments or anything like that, and you had a business model, like to build a hotel or an office building or a restaurant or whatever you wanted to build, and you took it to the government and you had a good business model, they would consider it and help you build it, loan you the money, or grant it to you, or grant and loan combinations depending, and then you could build it because they had a ton of money coming in from oil, and they wanted to invest it in their infrastructure in their country and build their country up. So there was a lot of people that came to America that owned a lot of apartments and a lot of hotels and a lot of office buildings. And they had to leave, and those buildings got confiscated by the IRGC, the Revolutionary Movement. And they're going to want, if they ever would be a survival of that country, they would go in there and sue to get their buildings back, and they would get them back. I mean, their hotels and their office buildings and apartment buildings are probably still there. There's in New York City, they got office buildings from the 1800s. I used to ride in the elevators as a kid. Now we're going back to the 60s. So we're talking maybe, lots of years ago. I would ride in these office buildings in America where you had an elevator operator. They had department stores with these elevator operators. So these were stores built and buildings built in the 1800s. They had electricity there. They had subways in the 1800s. So they had these crazy elevators. And the guy sat on a little stool it wasn't even a stool. It was like a flat seat that folded down from the wall of the elevator, and the guy could sit on it or stand. And you'd say, what do we need him for? Can't we just push the buttons in the elevator ourselves? Well, this elevator had a handle that came out from the wall, and it went like that. And he controlled the speed of the elevator. I don't know if this thing was electric or steam or whatever the heck it was, but probably electric. You'd lose your stomach. He'd stop on a floor. Now, these buildings were not normally, 50 stories or stuff like that. They would get up to 20 or so. Maybe they had some that hit 30 stories. That was about it. They didn't go to 50, 60, 70, But, if you're in floor 24 and the next stop is floor 14, the guy would go, woo! And you'd lose I'm not kidding you. Yeah, I was a kid, I'd lose my stomach. I was a teenager. I'd ride these things, woo! You'd feel your stomach go, right? So, these were wild elevator rides, let me tell you. I imagine years ago they got rid of them, but maybe they didn't. Now, I remember going in the Bank America building in San Francisco many times. Now, this thing was 60 or 70 stories. This was really up there. And it was it was like California Street and Kearny. It was right over there. And in the business district, the cable cars went right by there on California. And I used to go up there at night. They had a restaurant up at the top. And when you were going up, it was no problem. These elevators, you had to take different elevators. Some elevators only went up the first 20 or 30 floors. Other elevators went up higher. So the ones that went up higher wouldn't stop, and they wouldn't make any stops until after floor 30. If this is the breakdown, I can't remember. And the other elevators would go up to floor 30. So this thing would take off and it would try to buckle your knees. I mean, this thing took off. Woo! I mean, it was like you on a rocket ship or something. This was a building that was built. When was this thing built? Late 60s, early 70s, something like that. It was a modern building, you'd say. And it would go up, and then going down. Oh, man. The restaurant was like at 460 at the top. It was beautiful. The view over there was gorgeous. It was unbelievably great view. And when you got in that elevator to go down, I used to hold on. It was frightening. That thing, it was like a military elevator on an aircraft carrier moving at great speed to get those airplanes down and put them inside. Every elevator go woo. This thing went woo. You'd lose your stomach. Your knees would feel weak from the force, like you were falling. then it went on for a couple of seconds and you kind of recovered, and then it would start slowing down and you'd hit the floor. But it was quite a trip. I never enjoyed it. Woo, oh man, wasn't fun for me. Uh, but they had these old elevators there, in New York. I remember a lot of New York when you went down to the Battery, like around Wall Street area, stuff like that. There was a lot of stuff there that was really old. It's probably still the case, and a lot of those sidewalks were probably built, gosh, in the 1800s. You know, New York has a lot of really old stuff. The Empire State Building elevators are probably almost 100 years old now. I think that was built in the 30s. And they just keep doing the maintenance on them. I only went up to the top of the Empire State Building once. You got to take different elevators to get up there. You walk around, they charge you some money, you get there. And then you look down, and I think you're about 100 floors up. And the people really look like ants. They really do. And the cars look like tiny little things. I mean, you really are, and you got visibility. Like, they used to, well, there still is. There's a hotel in San Francisco, and it's on California Street, but at the top of Nob Hill. I don't remember the cross street names. I haven't been there in so many years. But it's an old hotel, probably goes back to the 1800s, or maybe it got rebuilt after the earthquake in 1906. I don't remember. It's probably one or the other. And it could be that they built it after 1906. And it's Fairmont Hotel is a chain, the luxury hotels. It's a very, very old hotel, but old luxury, And they didn't like giving you a lot of understanding of this. They had a certain elevator, and I lived there, and I used to eat lunch in the Fairmont a lot of times. I would go out of my office and I would run home and lift weights a lot of times at lunch if I had the time. No, I didn't always have the time, so a lot of times I wouldn't, and I would just go to I'd buy myself a paper, the San Francisco Chronicle, and they had an elevator, they kept it in the back, and they had a stand with a sign out there to tell you not to use it, which was nonsense. You just ring the button, it would come down, and you get in, and it took you up to the top of the Fairmont where the restaurant is, and they knew me, they never said anything to me. I walked out of the elevator, and no, they wouldn't say anything. I always left an okay tip, and they didn't bother me. So I would go there, and you went up, I don't know how many floors it was, maybe 30, but it was on the top of a big hill. Nob Hill was a big hill. And the elevator that I got in was on the outside. It was put on the outside of the building, and it was glass. So you're going up and you see everything. It's really nice. They do those on cruise ships. They put elevators on the outside. You see all the water. It's a glass elevator. So anyway, you'd go up, and it was quite a ride. People would get scared. Sometimes I'd have people with me, and I would, we'd be going down, and they would be nervous. You kid around, jump up in the air, and land back down. Something like that. And but it wasn't a fast-moving elevator. It was a moderate speed, it didn't go like a bullet or anything. But it was a buffet. What did it cost back then? $6.95. All you could eat buffet for $6.95, and it was first class food. Prime rib, everything, salmon, all kinds of food. And I used to go up because I was a bachelor. I didn't know the word that I was by myself, and I used to lift weights a lot or do martial arts or both or whatever, and I used to have big appetites. So I would go there and eat a big meal. And it was a healthy meal because they had tremendous salad stuff. And I would read the paper. It got me, I'd get out of the office and would give me a break. And I'd be able to get in and out of there in 45 minutes, And I used to use that elevator all the time to go up and go down. So that was fun. If you didn't want to ride that elevator, you went out the other way. That an exit from the buffet, and you could take a conventional elevator down. That was inside the building, and it was slower, I guess. Well, the other one was pretty slow too. So anyway, uh, I downloaded a video. I think I downloaded what Iran apartments look like. I want to watch it. I don't know what it's going to look like. So Trump's collecting the oil, and he doesn't want to let go of this Iran thing. That's his problem. He doesn't want to just fight a war. He wants to get their oil, and I don't think they're going to let him do it. And what you also have to understand is if they think they're losing and Iran's going to conquer them and get their oil, they may launch missiles at their own oil and blow it up despite Iran, despite Trump. Remember that. Okay? So Trump could go through. Remember, they fooled him with the human shields, and his plans went up in the air because he was a big shot, and he was telling them what his targets were, and he was going to hit the targets between 8 and 12. He was really being look at me, I'm King Trump, and I'm going to tell you when I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it. He never should have done that. He just should have said, I'm going to hit Iran again, and not given him precise time, and not say what the targets were. Then he never would have got the human shields, and he would have got away with it. And he didn't do it because he was stupid, a braggart. That was dumb, and it blew up. And now I think he learned his lesson. He's keeping his mouth shut. So I don't know how he could renew the ceasefire. He's got nobody to talk to. The only thing he could do is say, I'm doing a ceasefire, but what's he going to base it on? They're attacking ships in the Persian Gulf, closing the Persian Gulf. He's running out of tricks. So I think he believes if he gets rid of the missile cities, he can then get the oil. And, he'll bring the Shah's son in, and the Shah's son is say, oh, yeah, we want Chevron and Exxon to run the oil, Donald. Yeah, you tell your friends to come over here and they'll run the oil. And, the government of Iran would get a major hunk of it, a big, the lion's share. But Chevron and Exxon would certainly walk away with a lot of money. And so would Trump, I believe. And that would be good for America and all of that. But let's see what happens. I don't think that'll happen. Is China going to come in and do anything? Well, I'm not thinking they're going to do it. They would have done it already. It would have been easier for them to do it a while ago. Transport weapons to Iran would probably be something they would do. Same with Russia. I don't think they're coming over to do anything. Too far for them. And that's what we're at. So I'll get a prayer for us now. So this is prophecy being fulfilled. Jeremiah 49, verse 34 to the end, Elam, which would be Iraq and Iran, and maybe parts of Syria. And then the people have to leave their country and they go to they scatter into every other single country in the world. So it has to be before Jeremiah 30, verse 11. And then the sword follows them and they're cut off. So God's really mad at them. And all right, so I'll get a prayer going. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for all the true believers and me and my wife. I pray for us to have your strength, stamina, and endurance, and your healing and recuperative power flowing through us, healing us where and when it's needed. And I pray for us and our animals and pets to be safe, secure, and happy, healthy, and whole. I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray for no more destruction in Israel, which we'll have to rebuild after redemption. I pray we don't have any more of that. And I pray you disable Iran and Hezbollah from being able to launch any more missiles at us. And I pray we understand the deceptions of the world leaders and their lies, and we see through their words and understand how to interpret their actions. And I pray we know more about the Bible and we learn the Bible better. I pray that I can make better videos. Please pray that I get my packages delivered. We're still waiting on packages. And I'm thinking, I pray if any of us need work, like a job, we find a good job with good pay, and we have more than adequate money to pay our bills and then some left over. And I pray that if we are self-employed, that we would get enough clients and customers as needed. And I pray well, I guess that's it. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with this if you're a believer, even though it's a video, just agree with it. It'll be more powerful, you know. Okay, where two or more agree, your Father in heaven will do it, you know, so agree with it. Now for some spiritual warfare. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, I loose off of me and my wife and all the true believers in their households, and any and all witchcraft and sorcery. It's all null and void, of no value, no effect, and gone forever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And if any of us or any family members have unclean spirits in them, I loose the unclean spirits out of these people, bind them from being in these people or returning again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree with these things. Okay, that's what I got. And I hope you got something out of it. If anything extraordinary pops up, and right now it might, because this Persian Gulf thing is hot right now, I'll do live streams to updates. So the live streams, YouTube only sends one notice in 24 hours, so they won't send you a notice. So you have to check at the channel, but I will put it on Telegram, and I will put it on Twitter. So you, or what do they call it, X? So you can look, and it'll wind up on Facebook too. And so I'll just, you know, if it happens, it happens. But I'll be updating Telegram during the day, but it looks like we're getting into a hot war again any minute or any day now. And Hezbollah will crank up again, and the Houthis will crank up again. And Trump might be waiting for the Gerald Ford to pass through the Red Sea. And then when it gets out of the Red Sea, he'll crank the war back up because he doesn't want to see the ship get attacked and maybe hit. So. Okay, so we'll keep it going. It's far from over. The daughter of Babylon time has come. We're in it. We're in those times. It's beginning. You got a lot of problems with the fires. Read the telegram. And you got drought problems, and those are two of the signs. Okay. There's a lot of signs. Okay. So what else can I talk about? That's about it, kids. So this is going to spread. It's not going to be contained. Other countries will join in, and it's going to get going. Okay, so I'm out, and that's it. Thanks. Please pray for us here in Israel, and we do run off of offerings. And I didn't get the new iPad yet, but I think it's just slow delivery and it'll come. And I'm out.